Right, Clive, Gus, thanks for joining us. So I've been using the Ultra 100 over the last few months. I'm writing up the review as we speak. I've really liked them. They're really good. Well, obviously, as the name would suggest, ultra running shoe with distance in mind. Although I've actually mostly been using them as a training shoe just because of the fact they're really, really comfortable. Now, you've got the Ultra 50 in a Gore-Tex. Now, obviously, in terms of the numbers of miles, that differs, but how does it differ in reality?
So in terms of, okay, so just physically, what is new about the Ultra 50? I'd say, first of all, you're going to get a more generous fit in the forefoot. So, as a historically Austrian brand, Dynafit has been known for the ski touring, and it's come out with a fit to its trainers and its ski boots, which suits some, not all. If you previously have found some of our shoes a bit neater, you're going to be pleasantly surprised that the forefoot of this is a lot more generous, as is the depth between, the height of the shoe and the where your foot sits, basically. So, good point number one. A little bit more generous in the fit. Slim heel, kind of tapering midfoot, and then broader forefoot. And then, unlike the Ultra 100, which had that much higher stack, which is becoming ubiquitous or renowned with Hoka products, so having that much deeper stack height, you've got a slightly slimmer stack height. And unlike the Ultra 100, here you have a 6mm drop, not an 8mm drop. So a slightly less aggressive differential.
It's quite a different feel to the 100s.
Yeah, and on the underside as well. So I understand this in terms of the construction of the sole unit. You've used something similar to what VJ used within their sole units, haven't you?
Yeah, so it's a high butyl content rubber. So if you're seeking a kind of a good a grippy rubber, so the adhesion strength, shall we say, when you kind of come into contact with a rock or a wet surface, as opposed to just mud and grit, you've got a really high kind of contact strength there.
Because that's the nature, again, of, I guess, mountain running in the UK, isn't it? Is you do end up with a little bit of everything, and wet rock is often the trickiest of the mediums, shortly followed by grass, mud, and all the rest of it. And I think that's the thing I've liked about the Ultra 100 is, obviously, it's got a larger drop, so its stability is a little different to how, your zero drop, mud machine might be. But you can take them into that sort of like awkward environment. And this looks very much the same, if not a little better adapted to that environment.
Yeah, so you've got deeper lugs on these as opposed to that kind of
V-shape thing.
That V-shape. So you've got kind of V-shaped lug here, as opposed to having that kind of almost like dotted rubber that you found on the Ultra 100. So hopefully there you've still got your claw for coming through some gnarlier terrain.
So picking up what you were saying about UK conditions though, Rob, I mean, this is a Gore-Tex running shoe. Now,
I was about to say, tell us a bit more about the sort of funky lining that you're using, because it is a little different from, exactly how I was expecting you to do.
First off, I think it's always worth discussing Gore-Tex liners in a running shoe, because, I mean, I think we're all probably used to British fell running where you just accept you're going to get wet feet and it's just going to be horrible. And if you wear a pair of Gore-Tex running shoes, they're just going to fill up, and there's not much you can do about that. Once it's in there, it's in. I think what we tend to forget about is cold. And, we've all been out in winter conditions where you've got soaking wet feet, and then you've got a bit of an issue if you're out for a few hours. So there are different approaches to this, there's different solutions, and a Gore lining is one of them.
Yeah, so I guess with your Gore liner, as you just mentioned, you kind of get into that horrible mid-ground of, do I want dry feet on the basis that water shouldn't get in, but in the terrain that we have and given the construct of a shoe, keeping water out and you're running is incredibly hard. You often end up choosing between the lesser of two evils. Do you want wet and warm? Do you want draining, so to keep the weight away and stop your sock coming saturated, but you could hopefully still be warm, but you could get cold. So it's a trail runner, fell runner's nightmare if you are trying to kind of pinpoint, what do I need to Gore-Tex or not to Gore-Tex.
And in terms of that construction, as I say, because it is a little different as well, isn't it?
So here we've used an InvisiFit liner. So rather than having like an extended comfort of a performance comfort, which is a booty construct, what you get here is a kind of a bonded sandwich, not dissimilar to, say, Gore-Tex jacket, where the face fabric that you see, the membrane which sits between that, which sits underneath that, and then the liner then which sits next to your skin, all of that is bonded together as a sandwich. So you get a big weight saving, but it also means that water cannot pool effectively between creases in the booty So between the outer fabric, which you see, and the liner underneath, no water can kind of trap in compartments and cool your feet, which is, actually that occurs, and it often feels like you've got a leaky shoe or you've got a cold foot. It's usually not. It's just that the water crept through the outer base fabric, and it's sitting closer to your skin, which is horrible.
That's sounding to me as well like something which would have a natural positive effect on durability as well, because maybe a little bit less rubbing, a little bit less, movement in between, both the liner and the actual outer of the material.
So, I mean, where do we see this sitting? Do you race with a Gore-Tex shoe, or is this purely a training shoe? Well, I mean, you mentioned it just before. So whether it's, say, a long distance race or an ultra race that you might do in the winter, let's say the Spine, for example, and the debate is spare socks, spare shoes, waterproof socks and different shoes. Where do I go? Well, if you're particularly susceptible to getting cold feet, or I don't know, let's say you envisage a slower race to somebody who wants to do it in 90 hours. It could be that actually having a combination Gore-Tex shoe, which is not going to gain weight through water addition as badly, and having your waterproof sock is going to be a match made in heaven.
Well, it looks great. I mean, as I say, the Ultra 100 has set the bar really high, and the Ultra 50 just looks like, again, it's nice having this range of options available, because you can tailor it neatly towards what you either do or don't want, or what you're looking to do. And I speak as someone who has a lot of pairs of running shoes. I have a lot of pairs of climbing shoes, but then again, I do a lot of running and I do a lot of climbing, and you can use each one for where it's best suited.
Oh, absolutely. So what we've got actually here is these are the men's colours, those are the women's.
If I could order the women's colours, I can. I think that one there, it's a thing of beauty, Gus. Anyway, thanks ever so much for taking us through that, guys. That's perfect.